I'm Jeff Luke. Originally, I'm from Southeast Idaho. After high school, I served a 2-year church mission in Venezuela. And then following that, I went to Utah State and got a teaching degree. And that's where my wife and I met and got married. And I taught in Utah for a few years. But we kind of felt like the Lord always wanted us to... He had a different route for our family. And so we ended up in Indiana, and I taught a couple of years in Indiana. And during that time, it wasn't quite working out the way we thought it would. And so we were looking at possible career changes, and we had some good friends that suggested pharmacy, and there's actually a really good pharmacy program at Purdue in Indiana. And so I applied there and ended up going to Purdue and got a pharmacy degree. I still like the idea of teaching, so then I did some postgraduate training and took a job with Texas A&M College of Pharmacy that brought us down to Texas. So I taught high school science for 6 years. So that was an interesting experience. This was in the late 90s, so Hugo Chavez had just been elected, and that's kind of a unique history there because he tried to overthrow the government in the early 90s and was put in prison, got out of prison, and then they elected him to be president. So that was right before I got down there. Yeah, I think as missionaries, sometimes perhaps we're a little too confident. We definitely went into areas that I would not go back to. Yeah. But I do think the Lord, for the most part, you do hear stories where missionaries do get harmed or mugged or things like that, but we were protected. So we would live in apartments, and it depended what areas that I served in. I served in 4 different areas, but there were definitely very rundown areas. We did teach a lot of people who just lived in tin shacks and things like that. So a lot of walking, a lot of poor people that definitely in that country, and that was kind of interesting being from the United States, and everyone would always see you and think that, oh, you're so wealthy, you're from the United States, and it's just a different standard of, you can live in Venezuela on a lot less money than you can live here. Right, so it definitely was different seeing that, just that level of not having much. A lot of these people, they don't even have running water. I remember teaching a guy, and he would just go out back. He'd stand on a crate, in his biker shorts, soap up, just dump a bucket of water on himself to take a bath. No running water. They'd have to go get a bucket of water from somewhere else to do that. So definitely it made me appreciate what I had growing up. But at the same time, I realized that, and that's the beauty of the gospel. Because, people could go down there and be, oh, here's $1,000, here's $10,000. A person may use it wisely, they may just blow it. But really, it's the gospel that we could go into an area with such poor people and teach them the gospel, and teach them about Christ and God's plan for us. It depends. Some were. There were a lot of Catholics and a lot of Catholic traditions. Sure. In Venezuela. So sometimes that was kind of a hurdle for some people to get over. But really, just to say, through Christ, it's some of these things are less important. So I did. There were a lot of members in Southeast Idaho. I maybe had 1 or 2 friends that weren't members of the church, but still, there's still challenges whether you're a member or not. So very different, right? It's my wife and I talk about this a lot. It made decisions a lot different. Growing up around a lot of members, in Idaho and Utah, there's a social pressure. It's not just, the church. There's just such an overriding social aspect because almost everyone is a member. So if you're not at church, people are like, oh, what happened? They're not at church. That went away in Indiana. If you didn't go to church, you didn't go to church. And so we felt with teaching our kids, we felt it was a really good experience because it made things kind of more black and white and just say, and we had a lot of friends in Indiana who weren't members, and we loved them and just wonderful people, but we were able to then kind of teach our kids and just say, this is what we believe, this is what they believe, and you have a choice. One thing we have some great friends that we've come to know through the church down here. Definitely a lot of opportunities to serve, and I think that's one of the great things about the church is just opportunities to serve. When Hurricane Harvey came through, that was an experience for us. That was our first hurricane. Even though it didn't hit Corpus head on, but there was a lot of devastation, up in Rockport and stuff. And so just kind of thinking about those first Sundays after, and they just said, we're canceling church meetings and go up and let's clean up, let's organize and let's get people up there to help out. How long have we been married? 02, what year is it? 20, 30, so we'll be 20, so we've been married 20 years, so we have 8 kids. Right, so we had, in Indiana, we had some friends, and she was one of 10. And she said, she asked her mom for some advice and about raising kids, and she just said, they're all different. And that's what we've seen. It's, I don't know if, it's, okay, we have 8 kids, but we're not experts. And we just continue to learn and grow and do the best we can and try, ask the Lord for his help to do what we're failing in. There's a lot of people who have questions these days. There's a lot of people who raise doubts about God in general, about the church, about what we believe. And I think for me, a key moment was back on my mission. And we were going out, and we're like, let's go proselytize in this area. And it's with my companion. And we were walking we walked most places, walking down the street, and I remember feeling the Spirit telling me as we were coming across a cross street, and the Spirit told me this street. But it wasn't, we didn't go there that day, but I knew there was somebody that we needed to meet on that street. But we were going somewhere else, so we kept going. And so later on, we went back to that street, went all the way down to the end, started, knocking on doors. Or, you would use your keys and hit the bars, right, to make noise. But we met a family. It's a pretty big family, actually. They had 6 kids. And we ended up teaching them and just a lot of great experiences with teaching that family. And they did end up joining the church. It was kind of interesting. Most of the family kind of lost interest for a while, and we ended up just teaching the dad. And then after he got baptized, the rest of his family also got baptized. But that moment of the Spirit telling me this street, I know that God spoke to me that day. And I can't deny it. So then I have other things come up and questions and things like that. That's an anchor in my testimony. That I know that God does speak to us. And I'm able to go back to that moment. And it has gotten me through some rough times. It's got me through some rough questions. So I think with that experience, I think it just got me through some other questions and led to other things. So For me, another big pillar is that we have apostles and prophets. We have prophets, revelators, and seers who Christ is called to lead his church here on the earth. And so I lean on that one a lot. I truly believe that they see things that I can't. They understand things that I don't. And there's a lot of flack given about that. Oh, they're old. They don't know. They know. They know. I guess just as I get older and the more experience I have, the more grateful I am for the standards and the commandments. And the more I just realize that is for safety. I look at a lot of what the world tells us, and it doesn't lead to lasting happiness. And that's, I try to stress it with my kids. There really is safety in following Christ, yoking ourselves with him and going the route he wants. That's what's going to lead to lasting happiness. Heard one time, a member is like, oh, it seems like it's, the biggest snake salesman ever, right? It's like, oh, there's no way. This is too incredible of a blessing. But it's real. It really is possible. Like we were saying, Mandy and I are coming up on our 21st anniversary, and we've had rough times. We've had rough times. There were times we were really close to not making it. And President Hunter, I think it was President Hunter, said, whatever the Savior lays his hands on lives. And I felt that in our marriage. I felt that in our family. And now just the thought of being able to be with her is just amazing. I love her so much, and just having that possibility to know that we can be together forever, even after death, is amazing. And I'm so grateful for Christ who makes that possible, and through priesthood power, that is a promise that if I do my part, I can have that blessing. I guess it comes back to Jesus Christ and his atonement. And through experiences I've had, I've learned that he really did descend below all things. And he knows what it feels like to be an addict. He knows what it feels like to have a mental illness. He knows what it feels like to have trust be broken. He knows what cancer feels like. He descended below all things. And so to me, I guess I hope the message would be is that he's inviting all of us to come back, to let him carry those burdens for us, and to be able to find true peace and lasting happiness through him.
Yeah.
The most recent podcast that I'm really stuck on is Comeback. And it's about members who went different ways, left the church, and then have come back. And that's one that I'm really enjoying listening to right now. And to me, it just goes back to, once again, this idea of there's a song that I like, a Christian contemporary song, and it talks about an unrelenting Savior who's chasing us down. And that's one of the podcasts that I'm really enjoying.